Hello and welcome to this maths video. Today we're looking at section 8, lesson 13. And it's on ratios part 1 out of 2. So, today's agenda. First of all, we're going to look at a definition of a ratio and what it is. Then we're going to look at reducing ratios. And there's four types we're going to look at today. There's easy cases, decimal cases, mixed units, and then 1 to n form. And the decimal cases includes fractions as well. And then there's going to be some practice questions for you to try with answers. Okay, so what is a ratio? A ratio shows how much of one thing there is compared to another. So for example, there's a 2-to-1 ratio. I have 2 apples, you have 1 apple. So the 2 to 1, okay? And then you have to write a colon in between to represent the ratio. So here's an example, we've got 2 apples to 1 apple, 2-to-1 ratio. So simplifying ratios part 1. So to write a ratio in a simpler form, all you have to do is divide all the parts of the ratio by the same number. And this number is going to be the highest common factor of the numbers. If you don't know what a highest common factor is, go watch the video on that and make sure you're familiar how to work out the highest common factors of two numbers. Okay, so here's an example. Write the ratio 16 to 8 in its simplest form. So what is the highest common factor of 16 and 8? Well, the highest common factor of 16 and 8 is actually 8. So what we have to do is divide both of them by 8. So then we'll have 16 divided by 8 and to the ratio of 8 divided by 8, which gives us an answer of 2 to 1. Okay? And you can see that 16 is 2 times bigger than 8. So this is quite a simple one to understand and see because it's quite clear. But you can have ones where there's a different highest common factor. Okay? So there'll be an example question on this later for you to try. So when you're doing ratios like this, there's a good tip you can use. So if you use your calculator, so what you need to do is we've got a ratio of x to y, okay? So all you need to do is instead of working it out by yourself, what you can do is put the x part on top of the fraction, the y part on the bottom of the fraction, then you click the equal sign, and then it will reduce it down for you. It will write it down as a simpler fraction, and that will tell you the simplest ratio. So the calculator will do the work for you, but you need to make sure you show the work if the question has more marks. So the second type of simplifying ratios we're looking at is decimals and fractions. So if this ratio contains decimals, what you do is multiply by a power of 10 to get rid of the decimals, then you just do normal simplifying like we saw for example 1. If the ratio contains fractions, you multiply so the fractions have a common denominator. Common denominator means a common number on the bottom. Remember that? Denominator is the bottom, numerator is the top. So here's an example with decimals. Write 0.7 to 1.2 as its simplest ratio. So what we're going to do is multiply both sides by 10 so that they're not decimals anymore. You might have to multiply it by more than 10 if the decimal's further to the right. So what we're going to get is 7 to 12. And in this case, 7 to 12 is the simplest ratio, but sometimes you may have to simplify from here. So here's an example with fractions. We've got 2/3 to 1/2. Okay, so what we have to do is make them have a common denominator. Okay, so we need to find the lowest common multiple of 2 and 3, which is 6. So the lowest common multiple, LCM, not HCF. Okay, so then what we're going to have is 4 over 6 because we're going to multiply top and bottom of the 2/3 by 2. Then we're going to have 3/6 as we're multiplying top and bottom by 3, so they both have 6. As soon as you do that, you can just literally just get rid of the denominator and then you'll have your top. Okay, so to recap, with decimals, multiply by power of 10 to remove decimals and then just simplify normally. And then if it contains fractions, multiply so that the fractions have a common denominator, and then you just get rid of the denominators, and then you might have to simplify from there. Okay, simplifying ratios part 3. With cases with mixed units, you have to convert the units so that they're the same before you can cancel down. So for example, we've got 200 millimeters to 2 centimeters, and it's asking us to write that in its simplest form. Well, you should know that 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters. So what we're going to do here is write the centimeters in millimeters, but you could do this the other way around. You could write 200 millimeters as centimeters. So we're going to put 20 millimeters to 200 millimeters to 20 millimeters is our ratio. And what we can do is divide both sides by 20, and then we'll get 10 to 1, okay? That is our final answer. So that's what you do with mixed units. You make sure that the units are the same, so you convert them. So the final part we're looking at here is the 1 to n form. Okay, so this part can seem a little tricky, but it's actually quite easy. So all you have to do for this is divide. That's everything you have to do. So to get to the 1 to n form, just divide. So here's an example for you to make it make sense. So we've got reduce 5 to 236 to the form 1n. So as you can see, the form 1n, the 1 is on the same side as the 5, so we want the 5 to be turned into 1. How do we get 5 to 1 by division? So what we have to do is divide by 5. Okay, so then what we're going to have to do is divide both sides by 5. Okay, and then that will give us 1 to 47.2. So this is really simple. All you need to do is divide both sides by the number that's going to be 1. Okay, you may have to do some rounding here if you've got a long decimal, but it's quite simple here, just 47.2. So here's 4 questions for you to try, and the answers will be on the next slide. If you have any questions about how I got my answers, please just ask in the comments, but I'm not going to go through them in this video because that'll take a long time. So question 1, write the ratio 8 to 12 in its simplest form. Question 2, simplify the ratio 5.5 to 1.1 as far as possible. So that's the decimals one. Give the ratio 5/4 to 7/7 in its simplest form. And then question 4, reduce the ratio 10 centimeters to 20 millimeters to its simplest form. And remember that 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters. Good luck. All right, are you ready for the answers? Okay, let's go. So here are the answers. Question 1 is 2 to 3. Question 2 is 5 to 1. Question 3 is 5 to 14. Okay, and question 4 is 5 to 1. Hope you did well on those, and if you did, let me know how you did in the comments. And again, if you need any help with these in the comments, I'll explain how I did it to you if you ask. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it was useful to you. Please like, subscribe, and share my channel so I can bring you more content. Thanks.